She's a fire, fire, fire. When you look into her eyes, no, you can't deny her. She's a fire, fire, fire. When you look into her eyes, no, you can't deny her.
Welcome back to another episode of I Am Nala podcast. Today we are joined by a dynamic powerhouse who has been breaking ground in the media and social advocacy in Guinea. She's a TV presenter, producer, CEO of CBC Worldwide, a production company known for wavering important social issues into entertainment. Our Nala today is DIAKA CAMARA. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Aya, for having me. And I'm just like so excited to be on this podcast with you, and congratulations to you. It's so amazing the fact that you empower women all over the continent. So, really, thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're excited to have you. So, in 3 words, who is DIAKA?
I would say DIAKA is passionate, driven, strong.
That's exactly what a lioness is. So, how was it growing up in Guinea? For people who've never been and who are wondering about this country.
Guinea is a beautiful country. I spent part of my childhood in Guinea and the other part in Houston, Texas. But I always loved my childhood years in Guinea because it's such a warm country. The people are so welcoming, are so nice, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. You know, so growing up, it was fun. It was carefree. Grew up with a lot of cousins, a lot of family, and it always gave me a sense of purpose. You know and to tell you the truth, when my parents decided to send me to the US to study, I cried. I cried for days because I did not want to leave Guinea. I wanted to stay home. I wanted to continue all my education there, but my parents decided otherwise. So I was very heartbroken to leave. That's how much I loved my country. But I always promised myself, okay, I'm gonna go ahead, do what I have to do and come back, because even as a child, I felt like there was so much that needed to be done, and that we could each do something, at our level, no matter who you were or where you came from or what was your status. So I've always had this profound attachment to Guinea.
How many siblings you have? A big family.
It's four of us, two girls and two boys.
And then the aunties and uncles, and it's a lot.
Oh, yes. African families, when they say that it takes a village to raise children, that is absolutely true. The aunties, ooh, like really big family, because even my mom grew up with all of her cousins, outside even her siblings. She's very close to all of her cousins. My dad, the same thing. So it's a very big family. Absolutely.
And and what were you known for? Like, if people would talk about you in the family, what would they think? She's a troublemaker, or she's the quiet one?
No, I was actually a very good child. Like, I listened, but I was a talker. So no one is actually surprised that I studied journalism in college, because I was a talker, or even the fact that I even got into TV. I was an entertainer. Like, I wanted to be a singer when I was a child, but I have like the worst voice ever. And I used to sing for hours, driving everybody crazy around me. And I've always had this curious and inquisitive nature. I always asked a lot of questions, and was very animated, very talkative. Even in school, like, they used to write notes to my parents to say, "Oh my gosh, she talks too much. She needs to rein it down." So I was always in trouble for talking too much, disrupting the class and all of that. So no one is actually surprised that I got into journalism, or that I'm on TV today.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, growing up, you were a vivid reader from, what I've read. How did your love for literature influence your work today?
Oh my God, I will say to this day, it still continues to influence my work. And I read like authors that were very advanced for my age, because my mom had this, these old school cases that was made with metal, and they were full of books. Like, I remember I was very young when I discovered Voltaire, Baron de Montesquieu, Stendhal, Le Rouge et le Noir. So it was Madame de Bovary. I read all of this when I was like in middle school, to tell you the truth, And so I've always had this love for literature, and because I mean, books are magic, books creates, you can get lost in books, you can get lost in worlds in books, and to this day they are a very big part of my life, and even in my storytelling, like when I'm trying to create content, I get inspired from things that I read, whether it's literature. It inspires a lot my work, and I still have that love for books. And then I grew up and I started reading trashy novels, the romance novel. I don't know why people call them trashy, because to me it's like, it helps you dream a little, escape from the reality of life. You get to find your prince charming in books, even if you have a hard time finding them in real life. So yeah, to me, reading is an escape, and it broadens your horizon, it cultivates your mind, it actually nourishes your mind. So yeah.
Yeah. What would be your top three recommendations for vivid readers?
Ooh,
Something
that's
you're
a
reading
hard.
recently, something you've read throughout your life that you like.
One of my favorite books was Manon Lescaut, you know. Manon Lescaut, it was written by Manon Lescaut. Was it? No, Laclos wrote Les Liaisons Dangereuses, which I love, because you had this powerful figure, which was the Marquise, even though she's, not such a nice person, but you do understand the society that she lives in, that actually made her who she is. So I loved Les Liaisons Dangereuses, and I also loved Gone with the Wind from Margaret Mitchell. It's one of my favorite books, and um, oh, Shakespeare. I love Shakespeare. I think Romeo and Juliet is it's like, it's one of
Look at
my
you, you're romantic.
romantic, despite all the trials and tribulation in that area. I'm a hopeless romantic. I still believe in love. I believe I believe that each of us has the right person. It's just that we connect to the bad ones so many times but each of us has the right person out there. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I am a hopeless romantic too. I feel like there's a shortage of gentlemen today. So I'm like, where are the romantic guys?
You kiss a lot of frogs. You kiss a lot of frogs. But I'm sure there's a prince out there. There has to be. You have to keep
100%.
that hope alive.
100%. So you then went into journalism and you wear really many hats: TV presenter, producer, advocate, CEO. If you were to choose one and stick with it the rest of your life, would you be able to decide, or it's impossible for you to just do one thing?
I think it's impossible because they're all connected, and they're all, whether I'm a journalist, whether I'm creating content, whether I'm producing shows or documentaries or movies, or whether I'm being an activist, it's all connected by one thing: the power of storytelling, because this is all about storytelling. So I think they're also interwoven, and I think they make me who I am. I don't know what I would be today without having the activist side of what I do, and I don't know who I would be today without being able to create, the content that I create. So I think that they complement each other, they're interwoven, and they are all really an essential part of who I am. So I wouldn't be able to choose, because if I decide, okay, I'm an activist, okay, but what kind of activist am I without my voice? Without the power of storytelling, without the content that I create in order to raise awareness of all these on all of these issues that are dear to my heart. Do you see what I'm saying? And what is the
Yeah.
point of
No.
creating content if it doesn't matter, if that content doesn't change life, if that content doesn't change mentality, if that content doesn't bring light or awareness to important social issues?
Yeah. And do you think women can do it all? Do you think, once you have partner and kids, things change, or women can be superwomen and can do it all?
Yeah, we are already superwoman. We already do it all. We've always done it all, so I mean, having a partner or children doesn't change the fact that we are already superwoman, that we do it all. Because listen, before being a wife or a mother, you are a daughter, you are a cousin, you are an auntie, you are a niece, you are a granddaughter, you are a best friend, you are a co-worker. So adding motherhood or wife, it's just adding a little plus to something that we already do. We do all of this and then some more. You are a CEO, you are a mentor, you are a guide, you are just the best friend. I mean, we do it all. We do it all. We literally do it all.
100%. So you first entered Guinean households through Top 10, a show that became an instant hit. How was it like bringing such a new and fresh concept to Guinean television?
Like I said earlier, I grew up in Guinea, and no, everyone couldn't afford cable. And in order to see, the best programs, you have to have cable. And so when I was creating Top 10, I was thinking about the youth, because the Guinean population is very young. More than 50% are under 35. So I was like, I was going to create a show that you could only see on cable, but bring it to the national TV station, so that all of these young kids can have access to that quality of entertainment that you would otherwise have to pay for. So that was the whole mindset behind Top 10. And also to give a platform to all of these amazing and talented artists that are in Guinea, but unfortunately they don't have access to platforms that could be seen throughout the world to showcase their talent. Because I always like to say there's this amazing singer in Guinea. His name is Soul Banks. And I'm like, the only difference between Soul Banks and Chris Brown is that Soul Banks was born in Guinea and Chris Brown was born in the US. But talent wise, they are all amazing and exceptional. So that was the whole point of Top 10, to create amazing content and bring it to those kids, to even the little boy or little girl that is like to the most, far away village in Guinea, that they can sit and wow, see the latest, because it was the latest music shows, music videos. Like, they get to see their favorite artists that they hear on the radio, because the radio, everybody has access to it, but they would never see, like, Lil Wayne, Jennifer Lopez, like all of these amazing artists. And also use the platform to tell them, yes, we all love these Western artists, but look at this art, look at these artists too. These are made in Guinea, these are made locally, and they deserve to be on the same platform as the famous artists that we all know and love. So that was the whole idea of Top 10.
It's incredible. And, you spent 20 years in the US, I think, before you came back and kind of launched this amazing journey. How did that shape? I heard you saying, like, comparing the Western narrative and the Western platform and access that they have with a lot of African countries, not only Guinea. But how did that shape, what you came up with when you came back?
and I like to quote Paul Kagame, and he said something that is so important. Whomever controls the narrative controls the story. So growing up in the US, if one thing that America teaches you is patriotism, they love their country. When the American says, "I am an American," you can tell how proud, how profoundly ingrained it is inside of him. They will die for their country. So I was like, yeah. And you grew up in the US. The US has problems like every other country. I mean, we've seen it with January 6th. You know what happened on January 6th, and the insurrection and all of that. And what people don't know, one of the biggest population of of homeless people are in the US. But guess what? They don't tell you that. They sell you this dream that America, like if you never made it to America, you have not made it in your life. That's why you have all these influx of immigrant people are trying to kill themselves to get to America, because they think they sold it as the land of freedom, the land of opportunities. You can be anything you want to be. So that kind of narrative shaped who I am. I'm like, yeah, I mean, Guinea has issues like any other country. But Guinea needs also people to change narrative, to show the innovations, to show the beautiful culture, and to showcase all of the amazing things that also represent Guinea. But if we don't have people like you or I in position to tell, our stories in such a authentic and truthful way, in such a powerful way, well, the narratives on our countries are always going to be the broken countries, the poor country, the third world countries, the countries that are always torn by war, hunger, and famine. But if you have people issue from the continent that are telling these amazing stories, the slogan of CBC is, "We tell inspiring African stories," because they are inspiring African stories in the continent. We just need more people like us. Like when I post on social media, I always say the most beautiful sunsets are in Guinea. Yes, and I will die on that sword, because to me, the most beautiful sunset are in Guinea. If I don't say it, who is going to say it? Who is going to say it? Who is going to talk about our sunset? Who are going to talk about our beautiful sights? Who is going to talk about the amazing people in Guinea, the amazing and doing amazing things? Who is going to do that if I don't do it? So yeah, America taught me to love who you are, first of all, who you are, to love and accept who you are, and to love where you're from. American pride is to be imitated, quite frankly. So yeah, it had a
Yeah.
lot to do in shaping and in shaping my views of the world, and being and wanting to be part of changing the narrative, not only for my country, but for all of this, for the whole continent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely resonate. And I think they were somewhere in history where we lost that pride, because our ancestors were very proud to be African. We're very proud of our culture. Very, like, you see it in the way we dress, you see it in the beats, you see it in the music, in the cuisine, you see it in the street. Like, some countries, you're like, this is a runway, it's a fashion show. And I love that. And I don't know how we lost it. And I feel like this generation and Gen Z are bringing that back, that we're proud of this. Um, and I think also, like, the US is, as you said, is really good at selling it. And I wish we could have a media mogul. I hope your media becomes a mogul on the continent, because they're also
Thank
good
you.
at, like, creating those media that can push that narrative. And we're not there yet. We look for those Western media platforms to get any story out. I mean, we at Nalafem, we were trying to get a story of the Gambia on FGM ban and the repeal and what's going on in the Gambia, which wasn't a global story. But then every media we reach out to, they're like, we're not interested. But the day they were voting, the media released, like, New York Times and all those BBC and whatnot released a false narrative that, oh, conservatives voted, to repeal FGM. So it's in their interest to always make us look like we are a place of hunger and war and crimes and the worst, right? And I really think what you're doing is incredibly important if it can go from Guinea to across the continent. If we can all become that platform that tells a different story, then the dream becomes here. The African dream becomes here. So I'm just so inspired by what you said, because I think we don't pay that much attention and we're not doing it massively. There are a lot of storytellers out there on the continent. They're doing their bits and they're blogging and they're creating content, but we don't have that mainstream mogul media platform to do it.
No, absolutely. And until as Africans, until we start telling our own stories, I mean, our stories will be told through the eyes and the narrative of other people. To me, when I heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I read online that that Michael B. Jordan was going to produce an acting movie about Mansa Musa, who was the richest man in the world, even by today's standards, and he's from the Mandingo kingdom, from Mali and all of that. Why is it's an American that will come and tell our story? Why can't somebody from Africa tell the story of Mansa Musa? And then afterward, we are upset of the way the stories are told. But of course, they control the narrative, so they will tell the story that works in whatever angle or context they want to tell it. And media, another thing you learn in the US is the power of media. I mean, the media controls the world. And until, like you said, we have powerful African media houses, we are going to have a very difficult time changing the narrative, because again, we always go to these, traditional Western media houses to tell our stories or to run the story, and it all depends on their either their mood or whatever floats their boat. If they're not interested in it, well, guess what? Your story will not air. And they might be interested in it. It can air, but according to their standards, according to the way they want to tell the story. So it's important. It's important for African media houses to rise to the level of Western media houses. That's how we can kind of counterbalance the whole narrative, telling the narrative issue.
Yeah. I want to play with you a game called Time Machine Game. So I will mention a phrase and you have to tell me the year, just the year of when that happened. Okay. So one thing
Oh
you
my
were
God.
one thing you were super excited about. You were really, really glad you did.
My master's in 2023. I did my bachelor. When I graduated in 2006 from U of H, I wanted to do a master's, but I did communication journalism. And back then, the only master's that was available was in mass research. So it was just going to be a waste of my time and my money. And so in 2023, I graduated from Syracuse University. I have a master's in PR in public relations, communication, public relations. And why that master's was so important to me, because prior to that, I was very sick. I was extremely sick. I was sick to the point I thought I was going to die. So I told myself, okay, I always wanted to have my master's. If I do come out of this alive, the first thing I will do is get into a program and get my master's done. So I felt like that was a real achievement for me, getting that done. That was like something off of my bucket list. So that was 2023.
Well done. So proud of you.
Thank you.
Hey, I did a master's. It's not easy, but also it's not even easy when it's like a goal. It's like, if I get out of this, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah.
It's not easy. It was very difficult. It was, and especially doing the masters and working at the same time running your own company. It was not. So really, it's I'm proud of it.
It also really shows your capacity and resilience. So, one thing you've wished you hadn't done, which year?
There's Oh my God. I would like to say there's so many things, but then when I
I,
say that,
I hope
I change
I
my mind.
hope it's not a breakup.
No, but even the breakups, because to me, I feel like even the trial and tribulations made me who I am today. Maybe without that nasty breakup, I wouldn't be who I am today. So I don't regret. I don't regret anything, because I
No
feel like
regrets.
yeah, I am who I am today because of everything that I went through. So if you take away one thing, who would I be? So no, I don't live with regrets. No. So I
Okay,
cannot
your
tell you
first
anything.
job, which
My
year?
first job. Oh my
Ever.
God. My first job, I was in high school. My first job was in 1996. I worked at a gas station. Oh my God, by my house. My uncle is like, no, you are going to learn the value of earning, you know, money. So yeah, I worked at a gas station. That was my first job. I was like, what? I was 15, and he had to actually sign because in Texas you could work when you were under 16, but you had to no, I was actually 14 with parental. I worked like 5 hours a week. It was like 1 hour every. I think I worked Friday. No, it was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It was 5 hours. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But yeah,
That's
at a gas
brilliant.
station. Yep.
That's brilliant. Your first relationship, which year?
My first relationship was in college, and I went to college very young. I went to college when I was 16, actually. Yeah.
You didn't date her?
And no, I was a tomboy. For people that know me, I was a tomboy. Like I was into video games, I was into fighting, I was into sports. That's why, like, even my friends today, when they see me, they're like, my childhood friends are like, when people see you on TV with the makeup, the hair, the dresses, it's like, ask us. We know her. She was climbing trees, fighting boys, playing soccer. Like all my knees are scrapped playing soccer. No, I was a renowned tomboy. Like everybody knew me for being a tomboy. So I'll say my first relationship would be what? 98? Yeah. I was 16 when I went to college because I graduated. I got to high school in the US, and I got to high school in 10th grade. So I did 10, so I did, no, so I did 11 and 12. I was 14 when I moved to the US. So I did 11 and 12, and I graduated 12th grade, and I went to college. I went to college when I was 16.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. You're a fighter
Thank
and
you.
super smart. Okay, your last failure, which year?
The only thing I would call a failure then would be my divorce, because honestly, I was trying to, okay, what have I started and that I didn't finish? No, I don't fail at things that I commit to. My marriage, I would say my marriage, because he ended up in a divorce, but it's not even a failure on my part. It was a failure on his part.
But I
So
don't think so. I think a divorce should be celebrated because now you're
that's you see what I said. I say it was a failure on his part. It was not a failure on my part, because to me it was freedom, of leaving
right.
a situation that wasn't for me. But no, no, no,
Okay.
I don't have something I can tell you, because I'm the type of person. First of all, I don't start something that I know I will not finish, no matter how difficult it is, and I always see it through. Yeah,
I like that. You're very disciplined.
very, no, very, and very one side. I have a one side track mind. Like I literally get obsessed with the things that I do. No, no. For instance, my first reality TV, Le Mannequin, it took me 8 years to produce. 8 years. 8 years. They kept on telling me no, 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 no. When I would go the sponsors, to try to raise the production budget because it was very heavy. And all the local sponsors are like, what? Reality TV in Guinea? Oh my God, in Africa? No. This is like an American concept. DIAKA, you are too much into your American concept. It will never work. Because the mannequin was based on American Next Top Model, but adapted to African realities. I was like, oh my God, there are so many amazing girls that I want to give the opportunity they want to be a model to achieve and show them. Because in Africa, it had a negative connotation. They associate being a model or a beauty pageant with like prostitution, like failing. So I wanted to show them it was a job like anything else. And it was one of the most difficult jobs in the world. It's not everybody can be a model. And so for 8 years, I was told no. Finally, on the 8th year, my first sponsor, he was like, you know what? I admire your perseverance. I admire your persistence. Here, I will finance the show. And it became the first, reality TV of Western French Africa, and an instant success. So, yeah. No, like the only thing I will say that I didn't succeed at was my first attempt at marriage. Let me say it that
You
way.
know, talking of Le Mannequin, your show, I think a lot of the things you do is really about tackling social issues like
Mhm.
gender-based violence and other issues through entertainment and even like women empowerment. You bring into the front this thing that people perceive a certain way. People can look at women in a certain way and body shame and so on, but you kind of using entertainment to make social change and inspire social change. Um, like this activism with the entertainment, is this approach, have you got in trouble with this? Like how on a day-to-day basis, when you produce these things, when you think them through and when you see the impact, what kind of challenges you face? Because I don't think anybody in a patriarchal society want to see women in certain
Um,
job or a certain way they look like, just thriving and being themselves and feeling empowered. So how does that really, how do you navigate that really on a daily basis?
the biggest challenge in that I face is cultural challenges. You said it. We live in patriarchal society. We live the misogyny is here. You see it at every level. You see it everywhere. And so I remember when I launched my Break the Silence campaign Brisons le Silence, which was a fight against gender-based violence, and I tackled child bride, FGM, rape, and harassment, and domestic violence. And can you imagine seeing billboards throughout the whole country that depicts all these violences? The images were so powerful because I wanted to shock them. When I did a billboard for FGM, you see like the knife with the blood, and the little girls, domestic violence, the woman is beat up, raped. I mean, very powerful images. And when we put up the billboards, because it was like this gigantic billboards, like everybody, you couldn't miss them, you know and then you have people call me, in our culture there's no rape, so. And then on my social media I got flooded, especially with FGM. They are so hell-bent on their on preserving that fatality, because it is a fatality for women. Oh, they curse, they insult me on my pages. I never respond because I don't care. But it's the culture. That's the biggest challenge. Are these issues are deeply rooted in the culture. And so breaking down those barriers are very difficult to do, because you have to change the mentality. You have to break down the barriers at a cultural level, and then they see that as an attack to the traditions, to the way society is meant to be. I'm like, and so they like to call me the American. When I start, oh yeah, no, she's American. But and I tell them, I'm not attacking traditions. I'm just saying that we need to let go of the traditions that destroys our society, and keep those that are truly, that are empowering our society and empowering everyone in our society. And I said, times change, and we have to change with the times, and we have to listen to our women. We have to listen to our girls. You have in Guinean society 52% are women. So basically, you are denying the rights of half of your population. You are taking away, things like education to half of from half of your population. It's like going to the boxing ring with one arm tied behind your back. How do you expect to win? So now it has its challenges. So I get attacked. They will like make up stories about me on social media. They will like run fake stories and all this to try to discredit the work I do. Just like, oh yeah, they had they went and found a porn video on a porn site, and they said, oh, that, and they released it on social media and said it was me, which was very hilarious. But at least the girl that was featured in the video had this like very hot body. So I was like, at least they got a good looking chick, because no matter what, you still have some people that would believe that. They said that there is not, we are not, yeah, and the woman name was Popolinda. Her video got a lot of views because everybody went, to look at the video. But yeah, at least if they're gonna drag to the mud, let it be with, some BBL, plastic surgery, very looking. I was like, damn, she looks good. At least for those that will believe that it's me, let them at least have that fantasy of me in their mind. So
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's,
No,
it's
I was also laughing because it's literally, believe me, we work with women rights activists across the continent, and it's the same first attack. You're westernized, you come from whatever, you're funded by whoever outside pushing a certain agenda. Like it's always the easy way to discredit women's rights activists work. And then the other thing, you said, like, now when you're mentioning it, is I feel like you're using humor to overcome this, because honestly, it's not easy when you have a whole campaign against you for doing something you believe in your heart is the right thing, for believing that makes impact, and then it can get to you. So but you're literally like humoring the situation and just
no, but it was funny. The latest attack is I don't know if you heard about the Baltazar story, the guy from Equatorial Guinea that was caught. He has like 400 videos online that he was caught having sex with women in his office, and he actually taped himself. So the news story is like, I'm amongst those 1,500 videos. There's a video of me. To me, it's always funny because at the end of the day, I think knowing who you are is really important. If you are grounded in who you are, the attacks, they don't bother me. I've like really, I found it very hilarious. But for instance, they break my mother's heart, because she realizes how mean people are. So yeah, I mean, my I would say my mother or my brothers, or my sister, or even some of my friends are really more impacted about it than me, truly. Because me, I couldn't care less. But it's just the fact that they feel like people, like, how mean do you have to be, how evil do you have to be to go out of your way to create something fake out of thin air just to ruin someone. But me, I use humor a lot because I always think to myself, there are so many things there's such worse things in life. Like, there are people that are truly suffering, that are truly struggling. So making up fake stories about me, really, in the grand scheme of things, it's minute. So
Yeah, I think it's a great advice. It's like laugh at patriarchy and focus on what you're doing. So if there was
exactly.
one policy you could change on gender-based violence in Guinea, what would it be?
The thing is with gender-based violence in Guinea, can you believe that there are laws against FGM? There are laws against child bride. Like all the laws are there, but the policies are there. The hard thing is implementing those policies because of uh, 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 um, the cultural barriers. Let me give you an example. There was this story of this little girl that was mutilated and she died, and the mutilation was done by her father's mother. So basically, her grandmother. The man went press charges and locked up his own mother. Guess what happens? The imams, even the law themselves are like, that's your mother. Oh my God, this is like, you are going to be damned. She didn't mean for her to die. Do you think that this is what was her intention? Everything, the imams, the neighbors, everybody put this amount pressure on him to release his mother. Do you see? It's not the policies. The policies are written. The policies exist. Is the implementations of these policies. That's where the problem lies. Is the impunity. With the foundation, we do so much work. The woman gets beat up by her husband, but beat up you even wonder how can you beat another human being like that? She goes to press charges at the police station. Police tell her, marriage is difficult. He's your husband. The culture say he has the right to do anything. He can even kill you. It's okay because you are his wife. So that's the things that we need to fight. The policies are written, Aya. There is a law, even in the new constitution that they're working on, all of that. It's written, it's forbidden.
Yeah, it's the disconnect between what's going on in the community and what the government level, because you cannot also, you have to impose policies that are progressive and that make sense. But if you don't trickle down with the campaigning, with the resourcing, with the programming, then you end up with, the case of Gambia where they tried to repeal FGM bill after they passed it, and because if the people are not getting ownership of these policies, they cannot carry it forward. And I know, you're doing a lot of work with the foundation on, especially, women seeking justice, right? And I think one of the things you're saying is justice is one avenue that we need to strengthen, and we need to make sure that there is no impunity, there is accountability. So, with all the titles you have, like producer, TV presenter, I feel like a politician is missing. Maybe there is an
No,
ambition to be.
no, no. Oh my God, no, no. I'm not cut out to be a politician because I'm very honest and I'm very straightforward, and I am too. I will say no. I don't have the hearts. Politicians are a special breed, and I tell that to people. No, I no, and I don't want that type of power, because that type of power in most cases corrupts. Oh, no, 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 no. I'm an activist. I'm a social change. I'm a social changer.
So we need more women in political
Oh my
spaces.
God, absolutely. Who understood that better? Paul Kagame. I like to always come back to the example of that man, because he has understand woman's worth, and he has capitalized on that. Look at his cabinet. What There are a lot of women, and I think when it comes to the 30% in the parity law in the assembly, I think he actually reaches 50% in his country, and I think he's one of the few
70%
countries.
in parliament.
There you go. 70% of the women of parliament are women, and I think it's one of the few countries to do that. And look how the country works, how it's transformed. Women have to be in position of leadership. They have to be in position of power to enact changes at the structural political level. Because without that, I mean, if the people that are passing the laws are men, if the people that are governing are men, how are we going to ever achieve that equality that we are looking for? It's very difficult. It's another type of beast, and it's not everybody has the guts for it. But I wholeheartedly encourage women to get into politics. That is the only way to affect, to truly, truly, truly create the systematic change at the core of our societies that we want. As activists, we do a lot of things. That is true. Our work is important. But we also need, on the other side, women in this position of power to make sure that these laws are implemented, are applied, to make sure to bridge the gap, between the laws and the reality on the ground, and to give power, to empower all of these women that are survivors of gender-based violence, to make sure to create policies that are truly there to protect children, young girls' rights, especially when it comes to education. Absolutely, we need more women, but it's not an easy battle. But we need more. We need more in position of powers. Absolutely, it's not for me, but there are some out there that have
Listen,
some.
listen, listen. I disagree. I think you would make a great politician. And politics doesn't always mean, you could be parliamentarian, you could be a minister. The women who are activists and who are driving impact and change, in the community at the national level, these are the exact women who should be leading and driving these policies, right? But maybe not now. I'll come back to you in a few years. I'll ask the same question. We will see.
No, because what people don't understand, politics means giving up your freedom. True politics, for those that really embark into politics to affect change, it means you have to give up your freedom.
Yeah.
You don't belong to you, to yourself anymore. You belong to the people. And I think that's what people don't understand especially in Africa. Politics means you you don't own yourself anymore. And I cannot give up my freedom. I like to be free. Can you imagine
Maybe
when
just
you
for
are,
now. Just for now.
you cannot travel where you want, you cannot say what you want, you cannot, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. I like my
So
freedom. I love my
I know we're running out of time, but I really want to ask you about Ebola outbreak, because it was a defining moment in Guinea, and you created a major campaign with UNICEF called I Save 100. But also, you were one of the few journalists to visit the epicenter of what happened. Can you share with us? Because, there are other countries in the West who've gone through Ebola that we hear more about, but we don't really know what happened in Guinea. And when the pandemic came, did you feel like, okay, I know something about an epidemic, so we can handle this?
Oh, yeah. And I remember when I was doing the communication campaign, because the campaign was centered around a documentary called One Saves 100. Because they said that one person directly spread the virus to 100 people around them. And in order to do the documentary, we had to go to the treatment centers. There's two, one in Conakry and one at the epicenter when it started in Jekedu. And I was the only Guinean journalist, my team and I, to enter the epicenters, the clinics. And then you had to wear the hazmat suit. You cannot wear more than 10 minutes. You get so hot. It was unbelievable, but it was an amazing experience for me. And it was important because if we didn't take the courage to go and show the rest of the population, it's important to come and get treatment in these centers. These are the only way to save your lives. If 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 we were ourselves afraid to enter those centers, how can we convince others to go there and heal? you know. So yeah, and it was very fulfilling work for me because I felt like that campaign had such an impact, in the fight against Ebola. And to this day, actually, Doctors Without Borders used the documentary in. And I remember when there was when Ebola, there was a breakout. I think it was in Congo recently, like maybe a year or a couple of years ago. They used the documentary to try and train their agent on how, because in Guinea it was really bad. It was really bad. It was very difficult because you're telling people that have done the same things since Independence Day to stop, eating certain type of meat, something that is part of their culture. How do you tell them to change their habits? You know? So yeah, and also when COVID came, it was like, oh, okay, this one, there's another one. And I did another campaign during COVID too, to really try to raise awareness on the good practice to use in order to fight against the disease.
Yeah. I think just talking to you like over this, I could see that you have two important values. One is freedom for sure. The other one is
Absolutely.
really courage, because I feel like it takes courage to do a lot of the things you're doing, because it's
Mhm,
not what mainstream is, it's not
mhm.
status quo, and it really take a lot of courage to go out there and do it, and be a role model for others, inspire others. We have a question from Aminata, 20-year-old. She says, "Hi, Diaka. I want to work in the media, but I'm nervous about climbing the ladder as a young woman. How do you think, where do I start? Or how do you think I should approach this? What would be your advice to a young woman?"
I will first of all, hi Abinata. I will first of all say, go for it. The only limitations that we face are the limitations that we put upon ourselves. Go for it. Starts. And the beauty of technology today is that you can start your storytelling even with just your phone. I do a lot of, when I travel, I do a lot of coverage. I shoot a lot with my phone. Start small, start in your area. What is it that and you have to know what kind of storyteller do you want to be? What is it that you want to tell? What do you want to use your voice for? And then if it's, that's just an example, if you want to tell stories that matters, it's not going to be easy, especially for women. Know that, yeah, it's going to be very difficult. Prepare yourself mentally to that, because nothing is easy, especially for women. We are not given anything. We have to take everything ourselves. But go for it. Go for it. Go for it. And you really can do anything you set your mind to. I profoundly and firmly believe that.
That's a brilliant advice. So when we end usually our episode, we ask our guests to tell us why you are Nala. And you can do it in any language. You can do it in French. I am Nala because
I am Nala because I am a woman. Because to me, being a woman is being a superhero. I mean, the most amazing things that God created in this world is the woman. And we are fierceless, we are warriors, we are nurturer. I mean, we can be as fierceless as we can be nurturing. We have empathy, we have compassion, and we build communities. We invest not only in ourselves but in everyone around us, and we do everything basically. So yeah, I am Naila because I am woman.
Pisa, pisa, jarebe no pisa, pisa.